Tension escalates in the West African nation of Mali. A heavily armed hardline Muslim movement has seized control of another town and says it's executed an Algerian diplomat. We ask, is a military intervention necessary in Mali, and by whom? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Nabili. An armed hardline Muslim movement in Mali said on Sunday it's executed an Algerian diplomat which it kidnapped during the takeover of the northern town of Gao last April. The Movement for Unity and Jihad in West Africa, known as Ugoh, said that Algerian negotiators had refused to agree on a deal to release the hostage. Well, this announcement came shortly after the group declared it's also seized another town in the northern part of the country, moving it closer to government-held territory and signalling possible expansion of its ambitions. Hashim Albar explains.
This is the Algerian diplomat. The group calling itself the Movement for Unity and Jihad says it has killed. He was among 7 Algerian diplomats kidnapped by rebel fighters when the Malian city of Gao fell to the Tuareg-led separatists last April. The group, which is widely believed to have links to Al-Qaeda in North Africa, had threatened to kill the diplomats if the Algerian authorities refused a hostage swap. Taking advantage of Mali's weakened army, the rebels of Unity and Jihad overran the city of Donza, which had been held by a local militia allied to the government. Donza is only 190 kilometers from Mopti, which marks the line of control for the Malian government. It all started last March when soldiers led by this man, Captain Senago, defected from the army and staged a coup. The coup leader promised to crush the rebels in the north, but in a few weeks the entire region of northern Mali fell to the separatist Tuaregs, who say they'll only attack the capital Bamako if they are provoked. A plan by West Africa's regional bloc Ecowas to launch a military offensive against the rebels has been postponed, leaving a vast territory of Mali under the control of a loose umbrella of rebels divided over the future of the north. The secular Tuaregs have declared the north an independent state, which they have named Azawad, while armed groups like Ansar Din, Unity and Jihad and Al-Qaeda insist their aim is mainly to impose a strict interpretation of Islamic law in Mali. Hashim Albar for Inside Story.
Well, looking back at some of the events that have been leading up to this latest violence, a few things do stand out. Now, most important among them was the deposition of President Amadou Toumani Touré that happened in March, just before the presidential elections were due to happen. The military had accused him of not dealing adequately with the Tuareg rebellion. Now, with the new national leadership in flux, Tuareg rebels took advantage of the situation and took control of northern Mali just a few days before the military decided to hand over its power to a civilian government led by Dioncounda Traoré. But the northern rebellion has only grown stronger since. In May, the Tuareg rebels, under the banner MNLA, helped by the Islamic group Ansar Din, declared northern Mali an independent state. And in June, Ugoh took control of the headquarters of the separatist rebels in northern Mali. And then in July, Ansar Din and Ugoh turned on the MNLA and managed to capture the main northern cities of Timbuktu, Kidal and Gao. Then in August, the new Prime Minister, Sheikh Modibo Diarra, formed a new government of national unity. Well, for a perspective on how the government sees the situation in Mali, I spoke a short while ago to Hamadan Touré. He's the special advisor to Mali's Prime Minister, Sheikh Modibo Diarra. This is what he had to say.
Well, we are trying to work based on 2 options. The first option is a diplomatic one. It means dialogue, it means negotiation with Malians who still agree with our positions, namely Mali is one and cannot be divided. No partition, no federation. It's one government, one state. The second one is our state is a like one, no extremism, no fundamentalism, no Islamic Republic in Mali. So given the two conditions, we are ready to discuss. That's what we call the first option. The second option will be with those who are just trying to destroy the country, to try to manipulate the people, and to try to be part of drug trafficking actually currently happening in the north of the country. Well, both options. You work with both options depending on the partners or the enemy or the opponents you are dealing with.
Is the government in need of any international help?
Of course. We need help from our partners. We need help. Our partner, I mean, West Africa. We need help from our
what kind of help?
Neighbors, from the international community. We need assistance. We need both logistical and material, military. We need assistance to do this. Because what's happening in our country goes beyond Mali, goes beyond Africa. It has to do with terrorism. It has to do with drug trafficking. And, of course, it has to do with our territorial integrity.
Okay, well, you say you need help from your partners.
Issue, but it's also an international issue.
Who do you see as being your partners?
Oh, we have 4 neighbors, 3 neighbors who are part of what we call FEMOC. It's a coordination center with Mauritania, with Niger, with Algeria. That's the first circle. The second one is made of Ecowas countries, member states. And the third circle is African Union member states.
Do you suspect that your opponents are receiving any help from anywhere?
Well, we have information, but of course we have to verify and to check whether it's just allegations or if it's based rumors or information or facts.
What kind of information do you have?
We don't want to disclose any country, but we'll see. Maybe at a later stage, we'll let people know.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So to discuss what is going on in Mali, I'm joined by 3 guests. In London, Hidrissa Cherif Haidara is a member of the Mali Community Council of the UK. Here in Doha, Sylvain Touati is a fellow at the Africa Programmes in FICRA, a think tank based here in Doha, and the French Institute for International Relations in Paris as well. And in Abuja, via broadband, we're joined by Sunny Ugoh, Director of Communication at the Economic Community of West African States, better known as ECOWAS. Thank you very much indeed, all of you, for being with us. And Sunny, can I just come to you first, if I could? What is ECOWAS's reading of the situation in Mali? Who exactly controls the country, both north and south? Who controls government? Who controls the northern part?
There is a central government in Mali led by the Yaoundé Traoré, which has a problem of dealing with the situation that we have in the north.
Well, let me just interrupt you there, because I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Is the government led by Mr. Traoré, or is the military still in control?
As far as we know, the government led by the Yaoundé Traoré. We don't have any other information to the contrary, in spite of suggestions to the contrary. But I should add, by way of introduction, the prior comments before we started the discussion about ECOWAS postponing the deployment of their peacekeeping mission. I don't get any sense. I don't know where that is coming from, but I don't get any sense that that's been postponed, because as I speak, just a week ago, there was a planning meeting involving 8 chiefs of defense staff of ECOWAS and then the Malian armed forces, just to fine-tune their positions and have a better sense of what the appreciation of what the mandate of MISEMA, which is the ECOWAS mission in Mali, will be. If you recall, there were reports before then from Mr. Traoré suggesting that ECOWAS was only welcome in a particular part of the country. So
well, why don't you clear it up for us then? What is ECOWAS's intention here, and how do you read the situation?
Yeah, the intention is to be able to, 1, build the capacity of the Malian armed forces, 2, help them secure their institutions, and thirdly, work with the Malian armed forces to be able to resolve the problem in the north. As you know, I mean, the problem...
But does the resolution of that problem involve armed forces?
Yeah, necessarily so. You have made the point eloquently that you have a mixed cocktail of separatists, Al-Qaeda, and traffickers. And I don't think anybody would want to tolerate that kind of situation in this country. We have been working to see if we can get the appropriate UN mandate to be able to deal with the situation there. Okay. It's not a classical, in the experience of Ecowas, it's not a classical situation of a crisis that we've had in member states. We have situations in Liberia, we've had situations in Mali, in Sierra Leone. But this does not fall into that classical situation. So this necessarily requires us to have a UN Chapter 7 mandate to be able to deal with it.
All right, let me go to London and Hidrissa Cherif Haidara. What does the Malian community in London consider the problem to be, and is the ECOWAS solution the way forward?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. First of all, we want peace for our country, and we want like the unification. And as the gentleman said about the ECOWAS thing, this is the main position for Malian actually, because we need logistic, obviously, from ECOWAS, from Western country like USA, France, UK, and the problem is this situation getting worse and worse every day. As you said on the introduction, they take over another town, Douarnenez. It's not really far from Mopti. And this situation is really, really, really complicated. We need, first of all, like a cohesion between Malian politicians in Mali, in Bamako first. Actually, it's going on the good way because we had a new government, and this is a union government, and we will see what's going to happen. And I'm sure ECOWAS doing like a good job because they're trying to find a solution. They're trying to give us like opportunity, and we're waiting for the UN too, because UN made some declaration about all those atrocities in north of Mali.
But do you let me sorry to interrupt, do you believe that the Malian government is a legitimate one at the moment and is worthy of support? I mean, it is there by default on the back of a military coup which overthrew 20 years of democracy in the country.
First of all, the situation is more complicated. It's more complicated. There is like an inside story like between politicians first and between army. And our army, actually, we have a good army, but the thing is we don't have a logistic, first of all. We don't have a skill. We don't have like the training and everything. We need to fix up those problems first.
If you have a good army, why did they overthrow the elected president 1 month before the next election was due to happen, and he was going to stand down anyway?
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't have to forget like the situation before, because the situation was more complicated, and the last government didn't make a lot of communication about the truth, because the situation was very complicated in the north of Mali. And, you know, there is like a media, how to say that? There is a media war, if I can say. And our ex-president, Mr. Toure, he was kind of, I'm not going to say weak, but he tried to find a solution, the peaceful solution, but it doesn't work, of course. And yeah, so actually, as the gentleman said, we tried to find a solution, first of all, with ECOWAS, with UN, and with some people.
Let me go to Sylvain Touati. As you heard there, Sylvain Touati, the situation is very complicated. I mean, no one's denying that. And some people, for instance, Mr. Haidara, are looking to the international community to take a hand. Now, France is an obvious candidate here, given its colonial history in the country, and yet France seems very unwilling to raise its head at all in this matter. Why is that?
For many reasons. First, I think a chronological reason was the fact that the crisis started when the French was in his presidential electoral campaign. And I think President Sarkozy at the time was not willing maybe to play 1-7 into Mali during this campaign. Also, you have to remember that the beginning of the crisis in northern Mali is a consequence of the crisis in Libya, where France led the coalition, was one of the leaders of the coalition to remove Gaddafi, and led and even pushed for Tuareg fighters, or at least fighters from Gaddafi army, to go back to their original country, Niger, Mali, and other Sahelian country. The Niger army stopped the fighters and disarmed them. In Mali, however, the army didn't have the opportunity to disarm the Tuareg fighter coming back from Libya, and you had the arrival of hundreds of fighters in northern Mali. And in France, at least some commentators, some analysts say it's a direct consequence of the French intervention in Libya. So you have to understand that the French government at the moment is really concerned and is really worried to not be seen as a new factor of instability in Mali.
Isn't that a little bit politically troublesome? The fact that the French, having been, as you say, a key player in arming the rebels in Libya, and is now paying a blowback price for that, if you like, has decided not to try and address the problem that it's being accused of causing?
I don't see France doesn't do anything. Don't get me wrong. France is doing a lot of things, playing at the UN level to try to push for the Malian UN solution on the Malian issues. You have France also trying to support Ecowas resolution and Ecowas intervention. The French minister speaking on the issue always said that they're going to back up Ecowas intervention, regional intervention. But it's true, France, all the political leaders speaking on the issue refused a French direct intervention in Mali, and they will be like side players trying to push for a regional or international intervention, but won't be on the first line.
All right. Oh, Sonny Ugoh, let me come back to you. Is an intervention necessary? You've already said that helping rearm the government is necessary, but is an external intervention necessary? If so, who should be involved in it, and what part, if any, should France be playing here? This was for Sonny Ugoh.
My understanding, one of the main issues at the moment, even for ECOWAS, the UN, is the political situation in Bamako. No one wants to send weapons or give weapons to the military junta who was taken the coup.
Okay, let's hear from ECOWAS himself. Okay. I mean, Sonny Ugoh, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, for a moment I thought Sonny Ugoh was speaking from elsewhere. The issue for us is the Malian armed forces. It's obvious that the Malian armed forces, as it is now, is not in the shape to be able to deal with the situation in the north. So necessarily, we will need to have some external help. And that is the context in which ECOWAS is coming to support. Because as their neighbors, don't forget, I mean, ECOWAS has had...
but again, coming to support in which way? I mean, just with logistical support or actual foreign troops on the ground inside of Mali? What are you advocating?
Logistical support, political support, boots on the ground, those three elements are there. But necessarily, we have made the point that that is important, because, I mean, if they could deal with the situation as it is, the last 3-4 months of the crisis, the political crisis that now got manifested in the internal crisis and in the crisis in the north, there is no evidence that the military as it is can deal with that situation. That is why we are offering the option of supporting them to build their capacity, supporting them to be able to secure their institutions, and supporting them to deal with the situation in the north. But like I did say, necessarily we will need to have the support of the UN. If you look at it, I mean, the last 10, 15 years in West Africa, we've had to deal with crisis in Mali and not in Mali, in Liberia and Sierra Leone. And there's, in a sense, some fatigue. I mean, these are very poor countries. 11 of the 15 ECOWAS member states are least developed. These are very poor countries struggling with their limited resources to deal with security challenges. That is why we want the UN Security Council vote. We want international support. I get a sense, without prejudice to what the previous speaker said, that France is willing to help, because we have been working with France at the UN Security Council among a coalition of other countries to be able to get the required UN mandate to be able for us to deploy. And hopefully there are indications that they're also willing to support with logistics. And if they say so, with the new government in France, if they say so, we believe them. We have no reason to doubt that they are willing to support.
Hidrissa Cherif Haidara, given the colonial history in Mali and the background of this conflict, are you entirely comfortable with the idea that foreigners should be determining the future of the country? I mean, just a few moments ago, I spoke to the special advisor to the Prime Minister, Sheikh Modibo Diarra, and he said that it's still very much in the minds of the government there that a diplomatic solution is possible. Now, what you have in the north of the country is a series of, it seems, not particularly well organized and certainly not particularly united people fighting each other. Isn't it possible for Malians to come together on their own and reach a compromise by maybe holding the elections that were supposed to happen?
But the thing is, first of all, we don't have to forget the history. And this is not the first rebellion. We had a couple of rebellions, and the main revendication was integration, and for the minority and to the Malian administration and government. Actually, when you go to Bamako, when you see the government structure, you will see like every part of Mali is represented on the government. But actually, this one, the new one, they want a new thing. They want Sharia. And don't forget, Malian people, we are 90% of the population are Muslim. And we are soft and we are moderate. And those people want to come like with some extremist thing. This is not Mali. We are, how to say that, this is a peaceful country. I can say, if I can say, Mali was one of the examples in West Africa for democracy. We are like a young democracy. I'm not saying like everything is good in Mali. There's corruption. I know our politicians, they are not very good. I know there's a lot of things. But as Mr. Ugoh said, actually, we need support. We need support, we need logistic support, we need UN support, we need US support, we need French support, because they have intelligence, they have information, they can help us by training, by giving us advice and everything. We are linked anyway. We are like a young democracy. We can't like do everything in our own. This is impossible, actually. So we have to find a solution first. And inside Bamako, and after that, we can take over the north of country.
Sylvain Touati, when I mentioned the idea of a democratic solution, you shook your head rather vigorously.
No, the problem is you can, it was like few months ago, or during at least the previous rebellion, Tuareg rebellion, you had negotiations that led to settlement. Obviously, the recurrence of Tuareg rebellion in the north was the fact that the political solution was not as satisfying as it should be. But we have, as the previous speaker just mentioned, we have a new factor. The people leading the rebellion right now in the north are willing to push for Sharia agenda for all Mali. We had the Tuareg independentists under the MNLA have been pushed away. We've been expelled from northern Mali now. So we're talking about a group linked to Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, and it will be very difficult for us to find an agreement with them that is not going to include religious Sharia law within the northern Mali. After that, I think, from my perspective, from what I'm following in the political scope in Bamako, I don't see anyone in Bamako willing to accept that. So from this point, I don't see that a diplomatic solution will be finding a solution. Burkina Faso is trying to play this intermediary, but at the moment, it will be difficult, I think, to just bet on a diplomatic solution. And I think, as we mentioned before, Malian army needs to be supported, needs to reorganize itself.
Well, okay, let me. We're running out of time, so let me put that final point to Sonny Ugoh. Is a diplomatic solution out of the question as far as Ecowas is concerned? And does Ecowas not see a potential trouble in getting the broader international community involved? There are already conflicts with some of the international community and blame being thrown around.
Yeah, we believe, you see, we have pursued a two-track, from the ECOWAS point of view, we have pursued a two-track strategy. The strategy of getting mediator, the president of Burkina Faso, to put in some effort to try and see how he can resolve it. The whole idea is to see whether through dialogue we can resolve that. But we also on the table also have the possibility of military intervention. And we see that as the ultimate, in case if it turns out that the dialogue doesn't work. Because what for us is the bottom line is the fact that we will not tolerate a situation where the territorial integrity of Mali is balkanized under whichever guise, under the guise of introducing a more extreme form of Sharia, under the guise of the Al-Qaeda elements, or indeed under the guise of traffickers. We have a responsibility within the context of the ECOWAS integration project to support any member state that's in trouble. Don't forget, Mali itself had to participate in peacekeeping arrangements in other member states. So let us not see ECOWAS as a foreigner. Let us see ECOWAS as part of the framework of regional integration for addressing commonly and together challenges that confront member states.
And there we will have to leave it. Thank you very much indeed to all of my guests. In London, Hidrissa Cherif Haidara, here in Doha, Sylvain Touati, and in Abuja, on broadband, Sunny Ugoh. And thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. You can send your thoughts or emails to us, insidestory@aljazeera.net. Thanks again for watching, and bye-bye for now.